Alright, so I did some new math. So I had a trick before so that the bloom buffer, if it was brighter than the screen buffer, it would show the bloom buffer. And then I just made it so that when we do the temporal bloom, it only puts in values that are higher. So now stuff blooms right in front of other objects. Before it lost some of its intensity if it passed in front of another object, like this gray plane. So now the bloom itself doesn't lose intensity and the temporal doesn't lose intensity. So the next things to work on with the shader is to compare the depth, because you wouldn't want an object in the screen buffer to be behind a bloom buffer color that's behind it. So like say we have something in the foreground and this passes in front of it, we want this to occlude it. So we'll have to use some comparisons there too, depth. So we'll have to have another buffer for depth. So when we push color into the temporal buffer, we can also push depth into the temporal buffer. And then there's another thing. We have reprojection. Right now, if you move the camera, it will make artifacts with this stuff. If it moves relative to the camera, that's fine. If the camera moves relative to it, it'll leave a streak, like as if it was moving. So what we can do is use temporal reprojection, the same code temporal reprojection uses, and reproject the emission buffer. And that'll make it so if the camera rotates, it'll also rotate that buffer and cut off some of the pixels and stuff. But one of the artifacts of TAA is any pixels that are missing, you'll have to recalculate. So it's kind of, it's a crapshoot either way. You can either have it stationary and have it be very, very super pretty, or you can have it rotate and have it so it has artifacts along the leading edges, like TAA does. I'd imagine you could use sampling, like RTX, to be able to get at the emission buffer for pixels that are new later too. So you could use all the tricks that they use for TAA for this emission buffer thing too. Alright, thanks for watching. It's my TED Talk.